what's the best way to write the code? What code should I use? How good is AI at this point? Can I use AI to augment my workflow? And what's the best way to do that? And what's realistic? So this is the first video that I'm making. It's just going to be a diary series of what it's like to start a business and what I go through. I'm a solopreneur at this point. It is going to be a digital forensics and cybersecurity company where I'm going to be making a product that extracts information, evidence, or gathers information or evidence from sources such as hard drives, thumb drives, networks, and other, I guess, technical devices, means whatever. And this is going to be the process of what I go through to create that business. So I am, like I said, in the process of creating the C-Corp. I have some work that I need to do to get trademarks in with US Patent Office. I've also got the development and the marketing and the website and just like a whole slew of other things that I need to get done. I've made progress on kind of all of these. A lot of the back end up to this point has been just a ton of research on what the best way is to go about building this business, because I want to get the code structure right. And that's one thing. Like, I wouldn't say that I'm a professional at anything. I'm good at a lot of things and I can figure it out. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at any one particular thing. So there's a lot of learning that I have to do in almost every discipline of what it's going to take to make this thing happen. All the way from like the coding development to the marketing, branding, and just business operations and the legal stuff too. So there's some interesting background, of course, with the legal, because I had previously started another business with a co-owner, co-founder, that went south, did not work out. And so I am starting over, starting from scratch and rebuilding. I'm excited to do this on my own and actually see where I can take it. I just want to know if I can do the thing, right? At this point, like, can I bring something to market that people want and find value in? And all the things that I envisioned on how to do that, see if I can implement them and see if they're successful and learn from that. A lot of the research that's been happening on the back end has been, what's the best way to write the code? What code should I use? How good is AI at this point? Can I use AI to augment my workflow? And what's the best way to do that? And what's realistic? So it's actually really, really impressive. Like, at this point, like, what AI can do is just incredible, to where now I'm thinking, I mean, it has to be. This has to be an AI driven company. And so that is going to be part of the journey. Is I will be using AI as much as I can to augment my workflow and try to maximize my abilities, my capabilities. Basically build up a team of AI to help me do as much as I possibly can before I have to hire people. And so that will be part of this journey. And I will try to show you as much of that as I can as I'm learning and going along and figuring all this stuff out. Yeah, so much has happened in the last 6 months, but I'm just going to strictly talk about this new business and what it's going to take to get this off the ground. Like I said, I've got paperwork that I need to review for incorporation. I think that's pretty well squared away, so I just need to review it and get that set. I've been testing a lot of capabilities with user interfaces. This wasn't something that I thought I would be able to do, really, but I figured if I spend enough time on it, maybe I could figure something out. But with AI, it has just been nuts. So I did a bunch of research on microcontrollers, on screens, on the connection types between screens and microcontrollers, and what kind of code you need to write to go into the screens. There's a couple of different, platforms that you can write on to create the GUI, and then you have to have the code that goes in the microcontroller that can then implement the code that goes into the GUI, and then you've got to have the code on the actual computer to do the forensics processing, to run the core software, whatever that looks like. I haven't actually nailed down what the features are or capabilities are going to be just yet. There's a couple of different directions that I could go. I would like to eventually do all of them, but at least for now, starting out, I need to figure out what is going to have the biggest impact as quickly as possible so that I can try to get my feet underneath me and see if I can make this thing sustainable. Challenges are, like, financially, I put almost everything that I had into that last business. I've got a little bit of runway left. It didn't completely kill me. Well, 2023, if I had to, I took on a lot of debt. I pushed a lot of things back, including late payments, and just dragged things out as long as I can to give myself as much breathing room as possible, because the investments that I had, I was living off savings and investments. In 2023, I think I had burnt through all of my savings at that point. It was just basically extracting out from investment. And the market had tanked leading into 2023. So that was probably the bottom. Like I was donezo in 2023 if I had to cash out. But I knew everything was going to come back. And at least I expected it to. You can never know, but I expected it to. And so I tried to stretch that out. And fortunately, that's paid off to the point that I'm good now. Like I can cover everything that I need to cover, and I have a little bit of time to make this happen. I don't know how much time. It's going to depend on a few factors: IRS, Bitcoin, crypto, what happens over the next 6 months with the markets. But I think I've got at least a few months to try and knock this out and do as much damage as I can and get something built and get it to market. So I am going as fast as I can to try to do all of these things as quickly as I can and then get it up and running. My initial plan is to go to market with they say minimally viable product. That's always something that I struggle with because I keep wanting to add features and capabilities to make it better and then, have it be more impressive. But I know I need to get something out there sooner. So I'm going to go with fewer features, things that are going to be useful that I wish I had, or things that I would even use every day here. Probably geared towards the forensic side, just because that's what I'm most familiar with at this point, and then start implementing some of the cyber stuff in. I had done some of the cyber stuff, and this would be capabilities like network mapping, vulnerability scanning, things like that, like kind of like basic stuff on the front end. I don't know what features need to go into it yet. I need to do more research on that, more interviews, listen to a bunch of podcasts on figure out what people need. And actually, I think I can use AI to augment some of that, because with like NotebookLM, you can throw in 50 podcasts on a particular topic and then just start asking it questions about here's the content of so instead of having to listen to like 50 hours or 100 hours of podcasts, I can just go in and ask it to give me every reference to where they talked about pain points, products that they wish they had, features that they wish they had, how they wish companies would interact with them from a customer to a business sales perspective. So I'm going to be doing a lot of that to try to get as much information as I can as quickly as possible to try to get that into ongoing iterations of this initial stage product. So features, haven't nailed that down yet. Going to be building in some basic ones first, and then I'll start the feature research process of trying to figure out what should actually go into it. To this point, it's been user interface is where I've started. I didn't know before what I was going to be able to build into this, and so I just had to figure it out. I just didn't know what was possible. I didn't know what existed, the ways to do it, and so over the last couple of months, I've been learning that and figuring that out, and having AI help me, of course, along that way. So like things like Gemini's deep research, which will go out and look at 50 to 200 sources until it thinks that it can answer the question that I'm asking. It's actually really amazing. So it'll, like, you can watch it if you're on your computer, you can watch this process, but you give it as much information as you can. It'll go through and it'll look at like 50 sources and try to understand the question that you're asking it. And then once it has more context to your question so that it can better understand it, it'll go look at like 50 or 100 more sources. And then if it still can't answer the question, or it doesn't feel like it's answered it thoroughly enough, it will go look at like another 50 sources until it thinks that it's been able to answer your question. And it's usually pretty good. Contracts, for looking up tech, for trying to understand tech, for feature research, for capabilities needs, customer research, landing page research. So much can be done with that. And then you can use that and feed that into another language model that's maybe a little bit better at coming up with code or website front ends or whatever it is. And it can use all of that context to then create you a customized, tailored to your customer and your industry front page or structure or branding guide or whatever. It's super cool. So been doing a lot of that, relying heavily on that, and really just seeing what's possible with it. And I think it's here. I think we're at the stage where within the last 6 months even, it's gotten to the point where it is now able to replace developers, engineers, some of the busy work and research. And where I think it is at a place where it's able to replace a lot of, at least initially, the labor that you had to rely on to get these systems built out. And we're just at that on-ramp. Like it's just gotten there, and like in the next year, it's gonna blow up. It's only going to be getting better. And so like from a coding perspective, it's at the point where I can go through and have it write the code that I needed to do in whatever language that I needed to write it in, and at least get something initially built and get the structure right. So like not having been a professional developer or software engineer, like what's the best way to structure the code for future outcomes that I want? And so I just put all that in there and into all the different AIs. Like I'm testing them against each other and seeing what they suggest and how to go about doing things. And then by the end, I've got a pretty good idea of like what direction I should go and how to build it so that it's future-proofed and structured well and has all of the, I guess, compartmentalized capabilities built in that I wanted. So yeah, so I've got that structure, and like another thing is building the communications protocol between the microcontroller and my computer. So like, yes, you've got the interface that the microcontroller runs, and then you like push buttons on it, and that needs to talk back to the computer. And so the computer needs to be able to interpret that, but then you have to go back the other way. The computer has to be able to talk to the microcontroller. So there has to be an exchange. So like, let's say you go to turn the Wi-Fi off, right? Like you hit the button, the microcontroller has to then send the computer the information that says, hey, turn off like this is this message. It's not an error message. It's this type of status update or whatever. Update this thing to turn off the Wi-Fi network. And then the computer has to do that. It has to verify that the Wi-Fi is off, and then it has to send that back to the microcontroller with a status update in response to the message that it had previously sent. So both need to be tracking that, and then it can confirm that, yes, this has been switched off. And you have to be able to exchange other larger sets of data down to small sets of data and be able to track all of that. So that's one of the things that I'm working on this week, is that capability. And AI's helped me do that. I'm like, hey, here's what I need to do. I need this to talk to this. And I have 20 pages of, this is the product, this is what I want it to do, here's all the things from like how the customer is going to interact with it, how like the features that I want built in eventually, or like pipe dream features, capabilities, to the hardware that I'm using, to the software that I'm using to write it, to the programming languages that I'm using to write it, like everything. Like it's a 20-page profile of the product, the future version of the product, the customer base, the different types of customers and what they're interested in, how they want to interact with the product and everything. So I dump all that in there. I'm like, can you help me figure out the best way to write a protocol that communicates between the microcontroller and the screen that future-proofs for all these features? And so I went through and actually wrote out a really good protocol using JSON files. And so I'm gonna implement that. I haven't done that yet. That's kind of my next step to get that working. But yeah, it's like super helpful to do that. I never would have done that. For me, it would have been like, here's the command, send it over serial, store it in a text document or capture it or whatever. It certainly would not have been nearly as structured as what this AI, acting as a software engineer came up with. And so it's going to help me implement that. So that's super amazing. The hardware, I've got I need to come up with some like basic casing models. But this is like the initial testing screens. I've got, it's almost a 4-inch touch screen, but it will cycle through. Like, okay, I'll have to do an overview of this menu because I'm really happy with it. I'd like to have a tool hub or an app store so you can install or uninstall or add capabilities or whatever, depending on what your needs are, and customize the interface. But have all of the information from like the license information to the author to the website to where you can find this open source software, the version that's installed, all that stuff. And eventually I'd like to have it so that it'll just automatically update those individual tools and features. I think that'd be awesome. Like customize like quick shortcut keys, like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, save those to the main screen. Have different user profiles, so like you log in to your own profile and it has your settings saved, and then you have different pages for more menu options and like more like big buttons. Like if you're like, some of these are too small, I just like, give me this big menu that has these core features and it's just really easy to hit, or give me dark mode or whatever. And then we'll have another screen, this smaller one here, that's tied into it, and that is going to be primarily for just like outputting updates, information on status, progress, processing, and QR codes especially. Really, that was kind of the bigger one, is I wanted it for QR codes so that when I eventually have an app that you can pair with it, like you scan the QR code. So you scan the QR code, it syncs with the device, and then automatically takes you to the app so you can configure it and get your feedback and everything. So that would be awesome. I have another version. I actually have 2 versions of this product that I want to come out, basically the same time, and I'm hoping that it's an easy transition. So the professional line will be Shadow and Shield line of products, and you have Shadow, which is the Shadow line primarily focused on intelligence agencies, special operations, military, where you're not worried as much about the legalities, and the tools that you might want on there are going to be a little bit different, maybe a little bit more offensive in nature and or stealthy. And then you have the shield side, which is going to be law enforcement, and they're more concerned about process than maybe the military is with how evidence is collected and handled, and the tools that they're using. They're definitely going to be more concerned about CSAM material than the military or intelligence agencies are from a law enforcement perspective. So those will be the two kind of customer-based product lines. And then DFIR Buddy is going to be like just cheap budget, limited capabilities, not nearly as fast, but a little pocket-sized guy that you can just throw in your bag and have with you to have an extra capability. It would be a lot of fun. And ultimately, like, I want to go into the market at a low price point initially, because it's not going to have like an endless supply of features. It will be fast. It will be able to do the things that I'm going to implement well. And then I just want to get market penetration. Like, I want people to be able to adopt it, play around with it, give me feedback, tell me what doesn't work, what they'd like to see, and then that is going to drive development going forward. So if I can get adoption, come in at a really low price point, just enough to survive, like if I could make this so that I could just pay my bills, that would be amazing. If not, then I've got a couple of months where I can just build this thing, and then maybe I have to go get a job for a while and run this on the side until it becomes something, gets enough adoption, gets enough capability to where it's worth more than what I'm initially bringing it to the market for, and then I'll be able to transition back to it full time. Yeah, so here's day one. Let's go. Let's do this. Okay, day one of recording. But what I've got to do today, the rest of the day, is this morning I spent getting all these systems set up. Oh crap, I gotta get and getting the screens rearranged and everything so that my workflow is gonna be good. I've got another system installed with another development environment so that I can actually start working on the core forensics operating software. I've got the user interface to a place where I'm really happy with it, and so I can go ahead and just, I need to start integrating that into the core software. So the next step for me is going to be figuring out that communications protocol between the microcontroller and the main computer and getting it to swap information. So like when you press buttons and interact with things on the screen, it actually sends useful information to the computer, and then the computer can send useful information back to the screen and get those updates. So that's the next thing that I need to get working. And once I get that working, then I can start looking at adding features, and then look at updating CAD files for the casing and the actual look and structure of the product. So yeah, so that's today. That's going to be the rest of the day. Right after lunch, we'll get started on that communications protocol. So if you're interested, go ahead and just follow along. I'm going to keep these rolling out and try to bring you along. Just try to keep people updated as I build this business. We'll see if it works. It might not. I might be building something nobody wants. Who knows? But we're going to give it a try and figure it out as we go. So you can follow me on Instagram at, I don't know what my Instagram is yet, but daarc, DAARC.TECH is the company profile. I'm going to have my own engineering one. I don't know what that's going to be called yet. And then of course here on YouTube, and then X and Facebook, all the places. So yeah, follow along. Love your feedback, critiques, suggestions. Any of it would be great. So thanks everyone.